Right now we probably have billions of people watching this podcast right now. So let me just assume that not everyone understands exactly sort of nuances between clinical trials and real world data. So maybe going back to your second point, let's pull on that thread a little bit. Why are clinical trials not representative of what happens in the real world?
So the best way to think about it is you're trying to compare an intervention. So let's use drugs. They're the most common one that we, I think, would all be thinking about. So let's say you're trying to compare a drug and you want to see whether or not it improves the outcomes in a particular patient population. If you include all different types of people, different ages, with different complexities of disease, different comorbidities. So someone who has, let's say, an issue with their kidneys versus someone who has congestive heart failure versus someone who is completely healthy, all three of those individuals would potentially respond very differently. And what you end up with then is this scatter of information that is potentially driven not by the treatment that you are testing, but by a number of other variables. The ones I mentioned are ones that are easily seen, it's the health status of the individual, but there's a multitude of other potential measures that you don't necessarily see and you can't necessarily measure, or you don't think ahead are important enough to measure. And what you end up with is this spread of results that result in potentially saying, this product may not be very helpful because you have the result in very different groups of individuals. So what a clinical trial does is, first of all, it ensures that the type of patient you're testing is very specific. What that does is it gets rid of a lot of this noise that would otherwise influence the outcome, whether or not you can even tell if the drug is effective or not, right? So that's the fundamental reason for having very homogeneous, very similarly looking individuals in a clinical trial program, because you're trying to get rid of as much of the noise and just focus on, is the drug really doing what it's meant to do? And is it doing it in a way that it's safe? Beyond that, there are the question of, can this be replicated in all these other populations that I mentioned? Those are follow-on trials. That's where real-world evidence comes in. And it's really there to ensure that you can actually see the efficacy, if efficacy is actually there.